I have better routine now than obviously when I was a young mother.
Yeah.
There's no sleep and it's the worst part, a state of psychosis.
Yes.
If you can't designate somebody to do things for you, then
Tough.
you're screwed.
Yeah.
There is the chronic pandemic which is setting in, especially in India, developing diabetes, hypertension, obstructive sleep apnea, chronically sleep deprived.
A young girl who just had fever and a bit of restlessness. Because of sleep deprivation, that child died.
The stress of just keeping your baby alive. It's all on you.
We are overthinkers. We are multitasking.
Can you sleep on an
So-
argument?
I hate sleeping on an
Yeah.
hour.
But men don't think that way. And the moment they keep their head on the pillow, poof.
I did have like a series of months of insomnia from heartbreak, and I just think how psychological it is. I didn't know if I was in a dream state or awake state.
So it causes paralysis.
Waking up with the jhatka is because your brain is signaling there's not enough oxygen.
Exactly.
Wake up.
Might give you something called a heart attack, even give you stroke. Sleep divorce happens when one of the partners is snoring to the extent that other's sleep is affected.
Yes.
And it's a real problem. You compare yourself sleeping on your tummy one night and the other night you're sleeping on your back. There's a marked difference.
The phone is our
Yeah.
biggest enemy right now.
The whole culture of working and not sleeping.
A normal shift is 12 hours and then it's 18 hours.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you're like, I have 6 hours to sleep.
Yeah, maybe 3 things tonight that they could do to improve their sleep.
Vidya Balan said entertainment, entertainment, entertainment. I would say
So we spend almost 1/3 of our lives sleeping, and yet it is probably the most ignored part of our health. Sleep impacts everything: our immunity, our memory, metabolism, our mood, and still we treat it as though it were optional. And in a country like India, where stress, long working hours, screen time, they've become a part of our everyday life, are we slowly becoming a sleep-deprived society? And since this show is called All About Her, let's talk about women. Did you know that women are actually more vulnerable to sleep issues like insomnia, not just because of biology, but also because of stress, hormonal changes, and that invisible mental load that we all carry every day? And yet, we often ignore the signs. This episode is supported by ResMed, who are pioneers in sleep health technologies, whose solutions have already improved over 100 million lives globally, and they're now focusing on doing the same in India. Their recent campaign, Don't Snooze the Snore, highlights the importance of recognizing early signs and checking for conditions like sleep apnea. So do check out resmed.com for sleep tips. And today, we are simplifying this conversation. What happens when sleep goes wrong? How to recognize the signs early, and what we can do to take better control of our sleep. Hello and welcome to All About Her, and today we're going to discuss the importance of sleep. And to explore this, I'm joined by 2 wonderful women today. So our first guest is someone who I think has never shied away from keeping it real, whether it's through her work, her choices, or just the way that she continually speaks her mind. She's an incredible actor, an author, a mother, and someone who I think brings a lot of honesty to every conversation that she's been a part of. So please welcome Kalki Koechlin.
Thank you so much, Soha.
I have to confess that I've spent half of last night trying to pronounce your name correctly.
And now it's on YouTube, I think. Somebody has put a pronunciation
yes,
on YouTube.
they put all kinds of pronunciations, but I think
Yeah.
it's on brand for me to be sleep deprived, just
Yeah.
saying, and somebody said Koechlin, and I was like, maybe But anyway, it's a lovely and unique name, and we're
you.
very happy to have you here with us. And also joining us today is a leading expert in respiratory and sleep medicine, with years of experience treating conditions like sleep apnea and helping patients better understand their sleep. So please welcome Dr. Viny Kantroo.
hi there.
Hi, thank you so much. I've been searching high and low for a somnologist, as it's called.
Yeah.
So I found lots of people who look at respiratory illness, because I know one of the things that connects bad sleep is also snoring and things like that. It tends to come up like that, but there's so much more to sleep than
Exactly.
just breathing and things like that. And I wanted to get into that, and I believe that women, especially because this show has a slightly, I favor women.
Bias.
I really celebrate women. I think that
yes.
we're quite amazing.
We are all women. Yes,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
agree
I'm
with
so
you.
happy.
But not all do, by the way. Not all women do.
So happy that somebody has actually touched this topic, especially for women, because they are not told that they are a little different from men,
Yeah.
and they need to know this at very young age.
Yes.
So please look out for this episode, watch it 2-3 times and understand what is women's sleep health.
Lovely. And you're going to tell us.
Yeah.
But I thought I'll start with Kalki just to ask you, do you prioritize your sleep? Do you think about your sleep? Is it something that you plan consciously? How many hours of sleep did you get last night?
Last night, a little less than usual, about 6. I like to have 8 hours of sleep. That's what I need. That's what I need to be happy. But I don't get it very often.
No.
Especially with a daughter, and like I want to be present for her, like early mornings when she goes to school.
Yeah.
I want that moment with her, because after that I work and I don't see her. So yeah, because I choose to be that, I also find it hard to do everything that needs to be done.
Yeah.
But I'm much better with it. I have better routine now than obviously when I was a starting mother.
Yeah.
That first 2 years, so like forget it. There's no sleep, and it's the worst part. Like nobody tells you about this.
No.
How hard that is.
But I'm so glad, and I have to tell you guys that if you've not read The Elephant in the Room, you should, because you've told us how hard it was.
Yes.
And a lot of people, of course, talk about the radiant aspects of being a mother, or some people are now talking about the tough parts. But I think everyone's journey is hugely personal. But to just really strip it away and talk about your experience makes other people, I think, feel comfortable and not alone in the fact that these things happen to you. And that's the whole idea of also having something like All About Her, is to tap into a kind of community.
Yeah.
Where people feel like, okay, this isn't just happening to me, because I do feel like a lot of women's issues do not get spoken about in a kind of non-judgmental sort of way.
Yeah.
And sleep, for example, seems really basic.
Yeah.
But I feel, again, it's quite dismissed for various reasons that I'll touch upon. But I thought I'll ask you, Doc, the most basic thing in terms of why is sleep so important, and why are we so dismissive about it?
So sleep is very, very important for the body. All the, decluttering, the memory consolidation, the emotional health build up, it happens in sleep. Not only this, your immunity is all built up in sleep. So all that happens during the sleep. Your restoration of muscle, the muscle health, and also the healing of the muscle which you have torn when you were exercising, it happens in sleep. Not only this, when you sleep, whatever you learn during the morning hours, during the daytime, that is consolidated during the night time. It is pushed out into the subconscious mind. And then there is decluttering happening at the micro level in the brain. There is a fluid which happens to be very, very active during the night. It is akin to something which we called lymphatic fluid, which takes away all the toxins in the body. There's that grooming happening during the night time, which is the cleansing mechanism of the body. So all this happens in deep sleep, which is very, very important. And then the emotional health, the emotional reset, it all happens in REM sleep. So that is why sleep is very, very important.
Right.
Dr. Viny, I want to say something, because I have this trouble with lines. When I have to learn lines for something, okay, if I get the lines on the day of the shoot, I struggle to make it smooth, I always find it hard to memorize it. And somehow, if I do the same amount of work and I sleep on it, the next day they come out like makhan.
Exactly.
Right.
So they have actually gone into the subconscious, like you were saying, and this makes so much sense to me. And I always tell my productions, I need it one day before.
So now there's scientific evidence as to why.
Yes.
It's not just people being difficult. And it works, I'm sure, for students studying,
Everyone.
and anybody.
Yeah, everyone.
To
Who
sleep
has
on it.
to, yeah.
So sleeping
Sleep
on
on
something
it, and the same amount of effort that you've put, but you have slept on it, the next day comes out far more articulate.
So as you said, the brain is doing so much. But before I come to you, Kalki, I wanted to ask this, like Kalki said, she feels good after 8 hours. I also feel like I need 8 hours sleep, even though some of us rarely get it. So is it true? Because I meet lots of people who say, I only need 4 hours of sleep. A lot of them tend to be men. So is that just posturing? Or do people actually need 7 to 8 hours? Do women need more than that? And what happens to us when we're sleep deprived?
So this is completely true. Each and every one of us need at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep in adulthood, which means that when we are between 20 to 40 years of age, we need 7 to 8 hours of sleep every day, every single day. Then there are variations in this bell-shaped curve. So we see bell-shaped curve in each and every condition, in each and every, kind of disease which we talk about. There will be extremes everywhere. So average people need 7 to 8 hours of sleep in adulthood. If it's a child, they need more hours of sleep, especially the little children who are less than 1 year. You can see them, they are sleeping all the time. 18 hours a day is the limit which they need, and that is to build up the tissues because they are growing.
Right.
So the growth hormone is released maximally during the sleep. So growth hormone is not only important in childhood but also during the adulthood to give you that coming out of the trauma which you do during the daytime. So it's very, very essential. I mean, it's true. The physical and the emotional trauma, the recovery is important. So that growth hormone which releases in spurts, it all happens during the sleep. So that's very, very important. And next, you asked that why is it that women just ignore it? And
actually, I asked you a bunch of questions. Before we come to the women, just to come back to that, because I was reading in the little research that I did about this experiment in 1964, and there was a guy called Randy Gardner, a student, and he stayed awake for a high school project for 11 days. Not a good idea, and they don't recommend it to anybody now. It's very unsafe to do. But some of the effects that he experienced were hallucinations, loss of muscle coordination, obviously mood being hugely unstable. So
I have something to say. Oh my God, please, women, guys, girls, I mean, watch this documentary called Witches.
Okay.
I think it's on Apple TV, and it's about extreme postpartum psychosis.
Ooh.
Which very often comes from extreme sleep deprivation. And the way that it goes into exactly these hallucinations and even though I didn't have anything close to that extremity, I could see how quickly I could have slipped into that if I had ignored my symptoms and didn't get enough sleep and I didn't get enough support. I could have slipped into a state of psychosis. And how easily we could if we're not informed about these things.
Yes, definitely.
Very powerful.
I did have that problem postpartum.
Did you?
Yeah, because I am, kind of person who wants to do everything herself.
I feel like all three of us.
So, so that's the issue. If you can't designate somebody to do things for you, especially when you have had a new child,
you can't switch
then
off.
you are screwed.
Exactly. No, it's
so you need to designate somebody so that you can have those hours of sleep and regain yourself.
There's a whole lot. I want to come to the postpartum and the load on women a little bit later, but more broadly, tell us about sleep deprivation, what actually happens to our bodies, perhaps on one night of poor sleep, like really poor sleep, and then if that was to multiply over a few nights.
So first we'll take up the acute manifestation, which means some hours of sleep lost in days and weeks. So what happens, you'll have a tachycardia, which means increase in your heart rate, you'll not be able to concentrate, you'll have foggy mind, you'll be thinking something and doing something, which means there is no coordination between what you're thinking, what you're saying, and for example, acting in front of the camera.
Right.
The amount of energy you will put in when you're well rested will not be equivalent when you are, kind of sleep deprived, you've had a party last night and then you're going in front of the camera. It'll be quite visible on your face in terms of dark circles, heavy eyes, they look very, very tired, your face looks tired, your skin looks tired. And then there is the chronic pandemic which is setting in, especially in India. We have people who have these metabolic problems, which is in terms of developing diabetes, hypertension, obstructive sleep apnea. Now this is a spectrum of disease which happens when you are chronically sleep deprived, and it causes something called insulin hyposensitivity. So your body is not sensing the amount of insulin it is producing, which means that the overproduction of insulin is happening at the micro level, but your receptors are not receptive and they are just ignoring that insulin. And insulin is something which you need to push your nutrients into the cell. The utilization of all the nutrient happens inside the cells, and when it is not able to utilize all these things, your BMR reduces, you are putting on weight everywhere.
Right.
So that is the main culprit, which leads to uncontrolled hypertension, it leads to uncontrolled blood sugar, obesity, obstructive sleep apnea, many diseases which are associated with the obesity, including poor bone health and muscle health.
So that's a lot.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you about the times that you've been sleep deprived. I just want to touch on the fact, because you said, of course, as actors, and that you're connecting to us. But I'm assuming for people like doctors who work these 24-hour, 36, especially junior doctors, shifts.
Yes.
Or people who drive vehicles at night. Those are high-risk situations.
Definitely.
Where sleep deprivation exists a lot. And I think, again, there was a case, I know in America, in New York, where there was someone who was, unfortunately, was admitted into hospital with fever, and the doctors, at that point, there were no regulations. So there were junior doctors tending to a young girl who just had fever and a bit of restlessness. And because of sleep deprivation, that child died because there was some things went wrong. There was no senior supervisor. Regulations actually came into place, which I don't think we have as yet in India.
No, we don't.
Gosh.
Unfortunately, we don't, especially for the junior doctors. We as junior doctors have continuously worked for 36 hours.
Exactly.
So having your mind on a patient who's very critical, that's the area where I work in. I work in ICU with very critical and sick patients. Having the same amount of concentration and to think about the right approach, the right step which I have to take for them, it may not be correct. So we do need to get in these priorities even for junior staff, including everybody, whether it's a shift worker, a truck driver, it could be anyone. With somebody working with the machinery, they could have accidents at the work. So it's very important that we concentrate our energies on the sleep health of the country as well.
Yeah, I think the idea is there's so many things that make it to the newspapers, and somewhere the connection might be a lack of sleep, but it's always attributed to something else, even if it's a car accident or something else. So if the conversation opens up a little bit about how important sleep is, and I wanted to ask you, you talked about perhaps different phases in your life where you've been sleep deprived. Postpartum comes to mind immediately, which is something that all three of us connected on. Was that the time you were most sleep deprived, or was there ever a time when you were stressed, or as a student, or worrying about an exam, or when you're worried about someone you love in hospital? I'm just trying to think of times when I was sleep deprived.
No, I don't think I had maybe a 2 or 3 day stress or something, but I don't remember it standing out the way that postpartum has. I think I was quite a good sleeper. I liked my sleep, I got my sleep, I enjoyed my sleep. But I do feel like the stress of that early motherhood and the stress of just keeping your baby alive when they're so tiny, so fragile. And it's all on you. You leave that hospital, you just don't know what you're just supposed to do it now, keep this thing alive. It's crazy. And I remember if my daughter slept for too long, more than 2 hours, I needed to go put my finger near her nostrils and check that she was breathing. I was so paranoid. And I didn't feel that my partner had this paranoia, you know. He was okay to sleep through it. I was is she hungry? Is she this? And always switched on. So that feeling was very intense.
Has that become less now that she's become bigger and that she can talk and things? Yes.
Now it only comes back when I have anxieties about other things, or then I might start thinking about her. But it doesn't come on a regular basis. It's much better. But I do feel with age, I am less able to sleep. I don't know if that's something, but post 40s, and whether also I feel perimenopause is starting, and do we need?
I can talk to you a lot.
Do we need more sleep now that we're going through this phase in our lives?
I mean, we still need 8 hours of sleep, but I'm finding.
Do we need more as perimenopausal women or menopausal women?
I'll be happy with 8. I'm telling you. I'm just not getting it because I have full-blown insomnia. Which is perimenopause. Just not being able to go to sleep, waking up at 3 a.m., which is different to waking up at 5 a.m. Waking up at 5 a.m. means you woke up a little early and maybe you can go to sleep a little early that night. But waking up at 3 means that some cortisol spike in your body is happening, and then you're up and then you can't go to sleep. I will ask you a little bit about sleep aids because, of course, the key word for 2026 is magnesium, and it does work, but and other things also work, but there's hormones, and these are again progesterone, I know, is the one that helps with calmness, and progesterone starts to dip. That's the first thing that
Yes.
dips in the start of perimenopause, and then estrogen dips later. So I feel like I'm not the doctor, but I know so much about this.
Yeah.
So my progesterone has started to dip, which is why I'm addressing that. And we've had podcasts on, hormone replacement therapy and things like that.
Yeah.
But I will come to that again a little bit later. But talk to me a little bit about the sleep deprivation and how that felt for you physically and emotionally.
It felt infuriating. Like I just want to sleep. And during postpartum, though, I remember feeling rage towards my husband because I would be like, you're as fresh as a daisy. He would wake up at like 9 a.m. and I would have been up every couple of hours. I was also breastfeeding.
That's because you're breastfeeding.
I was breastfeeding. But he didn't ever like get up and do it or like do the burping or whatever, right?
No.
And
but
we were in lockdown.
Did he say that one partner should be well rested? Because that's the argument.
That was the argument, that he would be present in the day. But I was needed in the day.
Yes.
And so it just meant I slept
less.
Not enough. It doesn't work out that way. So anyway, I felt this rage that he would be sleeping fresh as a daisy while I had and then he would wake up and say, I'm not a morning person. I wanted to slap him. I was like, you better become a morning person. Here's the baby. But I felt...
Wait, and he's not even Indian.
Yeah, he's a very hands-on, but still...
This is usually the stereotype.
Yeah. Like, but he is much more hands-on now. Like, he's holding the fort now while I'm away. But in those first initial, like, 6 months, he wasn't... as connected as we are. I think because you have to be there. You are so connected from that... You've had the baby inside you for 9 months. You've had that umbilical cord. It's been feeding off you. It's a parasite that's been feeding off you, and it just continues to do so for another parasite. Baby parasites. Really, like they.
But kind of cute. And that first time, I think you said when they sense like you were feeding her, and there was a sense where she looked at you
when she realized.
Are you uncomfortable? You coughed or something. Yes. And then you form a bond.
Yes, that's beautiful.
And then you figure it out.
When she realized that there was a face attached to this boob. Yeah, that was a nice moment. Yeah.
I think is it a woman thing to get so anxious? I know that we've also had a podcast on neurology, and women are more prone to anxiety in general. Like our brains are more vulnerable to certain mental diseases even. But why is it that like a lot of the fathers are not?
See, primarily we are overthinkers. That is the primary thing. So we are overthinking, we are multitasking. Don't forget that. So we have to multitask between outside work and inside work. When you're home, you're not, you're not in a space where you're switched off.
Yes.
You're all the time switched on. You have to think about next course of meal or your child's homework or something on your head or your parents. It could be your parents' health as well. So you're never switched off actually, and that percolates into the night hours. When you're overthinking during the daytime, you keep on thinking and dwelling upon those thoughts only, which interferes with your sleep time. And during menopausal age, this escalates to a new level. There are hormonal changes, and these hormonal changes are not consistent at all. There is a spike and go pattern which happens. Sometimes you will be good, you will be bad. There are so many mood changes which happen. And then that irritability, which Kalki has been saying that she was very, very irritable during the postmenopausal phase. These mood changes are a big, hassle when it comes to sleep. Because the moment you start an argument with your husband that never ends, that thought remains in your mind, and then there is a spiral which goes on during the night time, and it keeps on escalating.
Can you sleep on an argument?
I hate sleeping on an argument.
But like now we'll just go to sleep.
Yes.
You can go to sleep.
That as well.
Exactly. So
and I can't, I want to resolve it, or I want to win or something.
Same thing.
Yeah.
It's true for every woman, but men don't think that way. It's their sleep time, and they can switch it off at once, and the moment they keep their head on the pillow, oof.
Wow. Okay, so the rage, any other physically, obviously any other
brain fog,
memory issues.
And that has continued now, and I feel like it's also part of perimenopause. Like you just feel like I can't remember anything anymore. Focus, people's names, irritating. I want to get something done. I go into a room. I'm going to check my emails, and then I've forgotten why I came, what year is it? Like which email? But there's another email from somebody else. So I've gone into that reply, and now I don't know what the first one was. And that's another thing, this phone business.
Oh, I'll come to that also.
Yeah.
But because we've already moved on and spoken about female-specific issues, I just want to quickly go back and ask about the circadian rhythm and cycle.
Yeah.
These 7 and 8 hours of sleep that we need, why is it important to have that at night? And I'm hoping that some people are watching this because, for example, like my husband and I talk, I'm very particular about my daughter's bedtime. 8 o'clock, something happens in my brain and I'm like, she needs to be in bed, she needs to be asleep. And he's like, she'll go to sleep when she's tired and it's all right if she sleeps later as long as she's getting enough sleep. I know she needs about 10 hours of sleep, doesn't she, if she's 8?
Yeah, she's 8, and all the adolescent people, they need somewhere between 9 to 12 hours of sleep for that memory consolidation, because they are learning in school, they need to have that memory. And yes, it's important that we have consistent sleep timings every day for our children as well as for ourselves, not only for children. So circadian rhythm means the body clock, which means that your body has a mechanism where it switches on, it switches off because of the hormonal milieu which is inside of you. So your cortisol peaks during the daytime. It starts rising 4 a.m. in the morning, goes up till 12 noon, and then that is where it starts slowing down, and at 4 p.m. it's low. At 6 p.m. it is the lowest. At 8 p.m. it is so low that your melatonin starts coming out of the brain, which is the sleep hormone. It promotes sleep, it maintains sleep, which means that after 40 years of age, our sleep structure changes in the sense that the maintenance of sleep becomes a problem, which means initially on maybe at 8 or 10 p.m. you slept, you were all right, you were fine till 12 or maybe 2 a.m. in the night, and suddenly you got up at 3 and you're in the middle of the night, what do I do now? Not getting that sleep. So that structure changes after 40 years of age, both for men and women. However, in women this is exacerbated by the spike and low levels of estrogen, the progesterone which is happening. Progesterone, on the other hand, is a heat hormone.
Yes.
So it produces a lot of heat in the body. When these levels fluctuate, what happens in your body, sometimes you feel hot, sometimes you feel cold. And then for sleep, for an optimal sleep cycle, you need to have a dip in the core temperature by about 1 degree, which happens for each and every one of us. But during that progesterone surge,
then you feel a hot flush.
Yeah, that hot flush, you're not able to sleep and you wake up in the middle of the night sweating all around and feeling as if something has happened.
Right.
You might have a surge in your heart rate also, and you feel that kind of ghabrahat in the sense that what is happening now.
Right.
So
these are real things.
I sweat in my sleep when I never used to.
So these are real things that are happening. We're not just imagining it. And I will also come to some help that does exist because you don't have to suffer through it. There are now things that people are doing to help you through it.
Right.
But because you talked about sleep cycles and REM you mentioned earlier on, one, what is a good bedtime? Not for an 8-year-old, for like a 48-year-old. And so what is a good bedtime firstly?
See, we spoke about cortisol levels and the serotonin. It comes out about 8 p.m. So that is the time when you should start preparing to sleep. Winding down.
Okay.
And after 6 to 7 p.m., no heavy meals. So meals are something which are going to interfere with your sleep, because if one part of your machinery, which is the stomach or the intestine, it's going to be working hard, then you're not going to get a good sleep, which means that if you have had a heavy meal like cheese, you're going to have maybe dreams in your sleep, maybe nightmares.
Is this a real thing? Because every time I have cheese, I have a nightmare.
Oh, really?
And I stopped having cheese at night. So it's not...
So this is not completely untrue.
I eat a lot of cheese.
Yeah.
But at night? And
maybe I don't eat it. No, I have it usually in the morning. Huh?
Do you have vivid dreams?
I'm going to now experiment. I'm going to see if it's
have some cheese.
Have some cheese before I go to sleep and see what it does to my dreams.
And see, anyway, I don't remember.
So they say if you eat cheddar, you're going to have, dreams of celebrities. Yeah, have you heard about it?
Is that also like a form of nightmare? Like dreaming about a celebrity?
I wouldn't think it that way.
Wow, guys, I'm going to try some cheddar and see who I dream about. Okay, but heavy meals make sense.
Heavy meals. which includes cheese, of course. It's very, very hard to digest.
Yes.
It takes a lot of time. Heavy protein meal, heavy fat meal, heavy carbohydrates, they're going to take a lot of time in your stomach, and that is why your REM sleep is not very restoring, because REM sleep has to be very, very calm sleep. That is where your emotional, reset is happening, your memory consolidation, your healing in the body, everything is happening in that sleep. So if it is partially affected, which means you are gaining some amount of REM sleep and you're quickly coming out of it, and it is the dream sleep, mind you. So that is the dream sleep, REM sleep.
What exactly is REM?
So rapid eye movement is what we call REM, which means that your eyes are going from left to right when you're sleeping. You might have noticed it in somebody who's sleeping. So their eyes consistently go in this motion. That is the rapid eye movement sleep, where our whole body sort of goes into paralysis state. You're not able to move your muscles because they're completely paralyzed at that point in time. So nature has this mechanism.
We have all got this sleep every night.
Yeah, every night.
That's crazy.
Yeah, of course.
Every night.
When you were
now I want to absorb my husband's sleep now.
You didn't see his.
I'd never seen this.
My God, it would be fun sleeping next to you. When he wakes up and you're like staring at him.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
So nature has a check mechanism. Nature has this check mechanism so that you don't, act out your dreams. So it causes paralysis in your muscles.
How fascinating.
Yeah. So you don't want to act your dreams out.
Otherwise you might be like murdering somebody.
Yeah, because I was speaking to somebody who said that they were having a very traumatic dream and their partner was trying to wake them up and they couldn't. They were paralyzed. They were sort of conscious, but they couldn't move.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that's your body protecting you or the people around you.
Right.
Which is amazing. Do you have a bedtime that is fixed for yourself?
Yes. For myself, it's very hard to do. I do when I'm in Goa. Yes, I'm a grandma. I sleep by like 10:30.
Yeah, me too.
I'm very happy to sleep by 10:30. My husband makes
It's the
a
new
lot
cool,
of fun.
Isn't it the new cool?
He makes a lot of fun of me.
Oh, he stays up late.
Yeah, he stays up and plays piano till like late. But I need that. I need that because I want to get up at 6:30 so I can be with Sappho and make her tiffins and send her off to school and all that.
Right.
So I want to do that. But and my daughter also, I'm very strict about her bedtime. 8 in bed, 8:30 lights out kind of thing.
She's 5 now.
She's 6, yeah.
She's 6.
But yeah, I think the routine helps. But again, our lifestyles. I mean, if I'm traveling to the US and back in a week, and you're in a completely different time zone, and then you come back, and then you have night shifts often on shoots.
Yes.
Those are just horrible, right? So you're constantly shifting. So it's very hard to keep that routine and that circadian rhythm all the time.
Exactly.
I think it's hard, and I think obviously if you have night shoots or a night shift, or if you're traveling, but by and large, I feel like the attempt should be that when you're not, to try and have a regular bedtime and to tell people perhaps why that's important as opposed to just go to sleep.
Oh yeah.
Why that's. Did you ever try sleep training
with her? Yeah. So what happened was around 2 months, I really started spiraling from the
feeding
sort of
and
the postpartum, the feeding, and I was just really, really low and really struggling with this, with this rhythm where I wasn't sleeping enough. So we went to speak to our pediatrician and our gynec, and we got a bunch of information. But basically, our pediatrician helped us with something called what did he call it? Discouraging. Discouraging. Okay, so he was
it's a gentle word.
It's a gentle word, but basically, like the 2 a.m. feed. Basically, at 2 months, she was strong enough and weighed enough that you didn't need to feed her through the night.
It was just an emotional.
It was only an emotional thing. So he was like, from now on, you drop a feed. So the 2 a.m. when she wakes up and goes, wah, you do anything but feed her.
Wow.
Because I couldn't do the whole like let them cry it out thing.
No.
I found it too emotionally distressing.
And I would throw
especially when they're very small.
But I would throw up also. So then it was. I mean, then
it's not worth it, right? You're feeling so anxious, and so then the other option is you play with her, sing her a song, take her for a walk, do whatever, put her in the pram, whatever. Just don't feed her.
So here, guy can help.
So yes, at this point, like put her in the pram, take her for a walk.
Right.
I don't think he did that.
I'm going to say any guy could.
Yeah, but you know what happens is after a week she stops getting up at 2 because she knows she's not getting milk, and then you do the next one 4 a.m.
So it takes a week though.
It takes about a week for each. Yeah, each
So you have to persevere through
You
that.
have to, and that takes a good like couple of months, right?
Yeah.
But it's worth it, man. It's so worth it.
No, I think that, and then it's so restorative, and then you can deal with, as you said,
Yes.
that day's trauma.
Definitely. The other thing which I would like to focus upon is in children we keep the lights on, especially when they're very small. You think that your arm may just touch them or hurt them. So that is something which you need to keep in mind, not only for adults but for children. They are very, very light sensitive. So as I spoke about melatonin, so that is the hormone which is light sensitive. It comes out only during the night phase when it's very, very dark. So pineal gland, which is right in the center of our brain, it senses the dark hours, and that is when it starts releasing from the brain. It's true for children as well. So we have to keep the light dim during the night time.
Yes. So my daughter used to be, I mean, she is scared of the dark, and so she wanted always that night light, but we were like, no, you're not having a night light. So
you knew this, that like a doctor?
Yes, I read about this. So then we would give her the night light just till she fell asleep, and then I would remove it. And now we don't use it at all. But I do find in Goa there's less light pollution, so it does get really dark.
You're right, yeah.
And here, when I'm here and I sleep, there's so much
Struggling
light,
through
and so now I've started wearing
noise, everything.
I've started wearing an eye mask, so that I can feel like it's later. Because at midnight I'm still like wide awake.
You're right.
here.
Yeah. It's so bright.
Yeah.
In the rooms, I've noticed
exactly.
that as well. One thing that I'm guilty of, and I wanted to ask you if you are, is this thing called revenge bedtime. Because we're all working.
Yeah.
We do long shifts. You want to spend time with your daughter. I'm also up at 7 now to send her off to school, and then you get busy with your day, and then when she's in bed by about 9 o'clock, when she's asleep, I want to stay up and watch a movie or do something.
Yes.
And I like eating cake at night. I've changed that. It took a lot, and now I do it after lunch.
Mine is chips. Mine is like potato chips.
At night.
I want something, to like.
So see these little guilty pleasures,
Yeah.
and then I push it. And if, for example, my husband is home, he's actually particular about bedtime. But if I'm alone, then I stay up even later.
Yeah.
And then it's 2 o'clock or it's 1:30 in the morning, and I've binge watched a lot of content on television, because I want that alone time, or that time alone.
Yeah.
Which
Otherwise, there's no marriage also.
Yeah.
Because when do we spend time with each other?
Yeah.
That's the one time.
But I'm saying forget him. Firstly, time for me
time
is so
for you
important.
for sure, but also like where
each
do you
other.
guys hang out otherwise?
Yeah. So how do you firstly, are you guilty of revenge bedtime?
Yeah. I mean, what I had a problem with early motherhood was that I would watch all these like child programs with my daughter and stuff. So then when I got my time, I was obsessed with serial killers.
Oh,
and I was
I
watching
see.
like Mind Hunters and all this kind of stuff, because I think your brain just needed to go from like la la la, I'm such a unicorn, to like let's see something real
just before bedtime.
Yeah.
And then I can't sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Then you shoot yourself in the foot.
So I mean, coming to screens, because that's also what keeps us up a lot.
Yeah.
We all know that screen time is probably not the best thing to do before you go to sleep, but maybe you want to tell some of us why that is and what we can do instead.
See, it's the blue light which is the culprit in your screens. That blue light is hitting hard on your pineal gland, as we spoke. The melatonin, it is getting hampered, the release of melatonin, the consistency throughout the night with which it happens during the night to maintain the sleep, that is affected with this blue light which is present on all the screen, whether that is TV, mobile, your laptop, or
can you get those glasses that protect you from blue light? Do those
the anti-glare glasses which protect you. However, having said this, we have to do these things in moderation, which means you can't be doing this every night. If you're doing this 1 or 2 nights, that is something in moderation that can be allowed.
Every night.
So there are people, I have seen elderly people coming to me saying that we want to watch reels during the night. So they are the ones who come to us because they don't have anybody home, their children are studying outside, their emotional health is affected, so they are also getting affected with this blue light pandemic. And children, of course, playing games late in the night, that is a strict no-no. But for adults, it has to be done in moderation. If you're doing it every day, it is going to be hard on your body.
Even the television, like even
a bigger screen?
Yeah, everything.
Right.
I suddenly thought a bigger screen is better for you though? Is that
Somehow I thought
It's a better one, but not a good one.
right?
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely put a rule in my house, which is I keep my phone away
from you.
So there's a certain time of day after which, firstly, we don't, now 7 o'clock is when we eat dinner
Yeah,
with with our daughter, and we leave our phones away. And then, like, I might check it after bedtime quickly just to make sure everything's in place, and then it's out.
So that's another
It's
thing,
off.
the notification.
Yeah.
It's not only the light, the notification also matters.
the dings.
And that-
no,
so
no.
that
I mean,
actually,
I literally switch off the phone. I put it in. I even bought an alarm clock so that I don't need my phone to wake me up.
Oh, nice.
So I put the phone in a separate room, and I also don't take it first thing in the morning. So I don't look at my phone till after I've put Sappho to school.
Right.
So I have this time which is not going right into that world and what dictating how I feel based on what's going
Yes.
on there.
This is something we call sleep hygiene.
Yes. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit. I mean, you've already touched on certain things like not keeping your phone in the bedroom, perhaps.
Yeah.
I have an alarm that goes off at around, I think, 9:30, where notifications are turned off and nothing comes. I am on nobody's emergency call list. Nobody calls me. What are some other things that we can do in terms of sleep hygiene? Because I feel like, for me, I don't know for you, what is the biggest enemy for bedtime for you, or poor sleep for you?
Yeah, definitely. This was a huge problem.
And this
the
is what's
screen.
helped you.
And this has really helped me.
Yeah.
The second thing is these addictive shows, right? Like now we don't watch a show which doesn't have it doesn't have an end.
No, especially if it's a serial murder.
It's a serial.
There has to be some
yeah,
suspense to it.
and every episode ends with that.
Yeah.
I need to know what happens next. So that's also now I think a lot before I commit to a series.
Yes.
I will watch a nice movie if I
Which finishes.
Yeah, which finishes, right? And you spend the time and you enjoy it, and then it's over.
Yes.
But I think a lot before dedicating my time to a series, because this binge watching thing is a huge problem.
What are some other things that we can do in terms of sleep hygiene?
So see, some things which many people do is drink before sleeping. That's a strict no-no, because
As in even water, you're saying?
No.
Drink
It's not
alcohol.
It's alcoholic drink. So that actually changes your sleep architecture, which means that your deep sleep is affected. We have two kinds of sleep. One is the deep sleep. The other is the normal sleep, which is stage 1 and stage 2. The stage 3 and 4 are the ones which are the deep sleeps, which includes REM sleep. So this deep sleep is affected by alcoholic drinks. Initially on, you might feel that you are getting the sleep, but it hits you hard. It might give you the slow wave sleep, but the quality of the slow wave sleep, which is the REM sleep, is not as good as it should be. Then having the coffee and the other beverages which contain a lot of stimulants plays the same part. It may not give you good quality of sleep. Also, reading good kind of books, it may keep you occupied throughout the night. So go on to a book which is boring. So that is the other way around to take it. Yeah. So if it's a boring
calming.
book, calming, boring book. Or
who wants to read a boring book?
When you're not getting sleep, you get patients when they are so deprived of sleep, they are able to do anything to get that sleep.
That is true. What about these? Again, it's through a phone or through a device, but they have like sleep music.
Yeah.
Does that
There's
work?
this binaural beats and stuff like that.
That works.
That works.
It definitely works. It has a calming effect on your mind, and it's good for your sleep. So you can have that slow kind of music, not the harsh kind of loud music which many of the children like to hook on to. And then there are some calming teas like chamomile tea, which could be calming on you.
Yeah, we have
then
that.
dimming the lights is very, very
Sage and
important.
chamomile.
It's having a quick bath in the night time
Really?
to reduce your core temperature. It's very good on your sleep.
What about stretching? Somebody told me, I've started stretching and I sleep better.
It is there, yeah.
Something about
Any
oxygen.
kind of exercise has good effect on your sleep, because exercise is something which has got so many positive benefits on the body, and it also regulates the hormonal balance in your body. So
But what about stimulating you before?
exercise too late.
Yeah,
I mean,
doesn't it
yesterday,
stimulate
for
you?
example, that's the reason I couldn't get to sleep, because I had finished my work day, and then I went to join a friend, and we played volleyball in a pool. And so by the time I got home at like 10, I was so hyper and I couldn't wind down. I was
Yeah.
very, so I feel like too late also is not
Too
good.
late, too close to your sleep, especially, that may not be good. However, it depends from person to person. This is person specific. So there are people who get a calming effect after the exercise and they get very good kind of a sleep. So they have to time it according to their own body. So we have people who do not like exercising before the sleep immediately. But however, having said this, even if you exercise 3 hours before, or take a little bit of a walk
Yes.
in calming environment, in greenery around you, that's going to be calming on the body.
Was it because you lost at volleyball? No.
I actually did, yeah. I was
Maybe
very
it was a
upset.
psychological
It was
impact.
both together. Yeah.
So these are great in terms of sleep hygiene. One other solution that people refer to sometimes if they haven't slept well is napping. And certain cultures embrace it. You have the siesta in Spain, you have riposo in Italy. In India also, I think warmer climates maybe. People tend to nap in the afternoon because it's just a time that you rest. I believe in Japan.
In Pondicherry, though, the shops are shut from
Yeah.
2 to
Yeah,
4.
you don't find any soul
Pondi,
on
where I
the,
grew
on
up,
the street.
yeah, nobody's working at that
No,
time.
so a lot of cultures actually embrace the concept of napping. And we just went to Japan on holiday. Apparently there they have something called inemuri, where it is considered a good thing to sleep in public. So if you see someone napping on a train or at the office, then it's like, wow, see how dedicated they are to work, because they're actually seen as being, present.
Recharging.
They're not going home. So they're recharging while they're in the workspace.
Wow.
So you don't sort of say, oh, he's fallen asleep at work, he's such a lazy person. You're like, oh, he's so committed to his work.
Right.
Or her work. But do naps work, is my question.
So there are studies which have exclusively happened, especially in Japanese culture, on these naps. So if they are between 20 to 40 minutes in the afternoon especially, so they are going to give a boost to your brain. How your brain thinks, how it responds, what is the response time that increases, and you actually start concentrating more in your work. So it does help.
Okay.
But having long hours like 1 to 2 to 3 hours in the afternoon, it's not going to do that trick. So quick 20 to 40 minutes recharge, that is something which should be encouraged.
The trick is to fall asleep, though, isn't it, for 20 minutes?
Within that.
Yeah,
within
I'm
that.
like, oh, I only have 20 minutes.
How will I sleep? Yeah.
I feel like you don't nap.
I don't nap. No, I think if I'm under very stressful situations and I'm on set and I haven't had enough sleep and all that, then I do take those little
Power
naps.
naps.
I have to.
Yeah.
But there are, many times where you can't get to sleep.
My friend Niranjana, she has a sort of question for each podcast that we do, and she said you must ask your guests if they've tried the coffee nap. So the coffee nap is when you have a cup of coffee and then you go to sleep.
Immediately.
Immediately. And then the caffeine kicks in after 20 minutes. So you wake up like fresh as a daisy and alert.
Wow.
I think it's a myth.
Right, yeah.
But you can try it with cheese
Might as
tonight
well
and
try.
coffee nap tomorrow.
Might as well try it all, yeah.
And then tell us whether it works for you. Do people?
It's a myth.
It's a myth.
It's
Okay.
basically
It's a
the
myth, Ninna.
warm water which is having a calming
warmth,
effect on the body.
yeah.
Okay. So maybe don't try that. What about, have you ever tracked your sleep? Because now you have all these rings and these devices and I did this because when I started my insomnia, and because sleep is so critical to how good I feel, I felt like sometimes my eyes were closed and I was motionless, and I didn't know if that counted as any stage of sleep. And I said, am I getting any rest at all? And then I started tracking it, and then I got something called, I don't know, it was like orthosomnia or something, where I was actually getting anxious. What about tracking sleep? Does it actually work? Is it something that you would recommend?
So again, something in moderation. If you want to track it, you don't have to think about it all the time. So the moment you get up in the morning, the first thing you check is how many hours I slept, what was the quality, did I drop my oxygen. So doing that over a period of time gives you sleep anxiety, which means that you're tracking so much that thought itself is interfering with your sleep. So this is not something we should be aiming at. So our body is not it's not a machine, it's a human body which has very intricate functions, the chemistry happening between the hormones, and that hormone is going to work if your mind is calm, if you're not going to track it all the time. So sleep gadgets for few selected people could be advised if we doctors suspect that they have certain conditions which could lead to disruption in the sleep. For example, somebody who's suspected to have an obstructive sleep apnea, which means that the breathing tube inside your throat is getting compressed during the night due to many reasons, due to loss of tone, loss of estrogen in perimenopausal age, due to the abdominal obesity which they are having, the diaphragmatic muscle moving up due to gravity and compressing your trachea, so that the oxygen in the brain is reduced. And when oxygen in the brain is reduced, your brain tells you, get up, I'm not getting my oxygen. So that fragmentation of sleep is responsible for the cortisol surge which happens, which causes hypertension, diabetes, central obesity and things like that. So people like them, if we are suspecting them to be having certain kind of problems, or we have already diagnosed them with these kind of problems and we want to track whether the problem is solved with something called a CPAP machine.
Yes.
So these are the people which we target for sleep gadgets.
Right.
Otherwise, for a normal person to track something which is a natural process should not be encouraged.
Gets obsessive. It's like when you
Exactly.
think about your calories or your anything which with too much. Then it's almost like you want to control something which is.
Have you ever tried any of these gadgets?
No, I'm not very gadget person. But now I'm remembering that I did have a series of months of insomnia from heartbreak, and I just think how psychological it is.
Yeah.
I really could not
I was
sleep.
thinking
I
also.
mean, I really could not sleep. Like I was waking up again at 2, 3 in the morning. I was just playing the guitar or doing something to occupy myself because there was no way of going back to sleep. And then on the days where I had to work or do something, I remember feeling like I didn't know if I was in a dream state or awake state. I remember being very confused. Is this really happening or am I still asleep? Or, I had these moments. And it was really like about 4 months of it.
And then when you tried to go to sleep, what would happen? You would just be unable to fall asleep?
I would sometimes fall asleep quite quickly, but I would always wake up within 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I couldn't sleep more than 2 or 3 hours at a time.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know where to put those 2 hours. Then I would try to sleep in the day, but then, you have work or you have something going on. It was really disorienting.
Yes.
I remember that.
And then what happened?
I got over it, I guess. I told her, I kicked him out. No, I don't know, but
time is the biggest
It's so
healer.
fragile, like how the mind works, that sometimes it's just a play of the mind, right?
Yes.
And then that affects your hormones and everything else.
Exactly. So sometimes it's not just about, you want to go to sleep, but there's so many other factors, I think, at play. You mentioned sleep apnea, and I think I know some people who might have sleep apnea, but there might just be people who snore heavily. So can you just talk to us a little bit about what sleep apnea is? Because I think it's a very, and you tell us whether it's something that is happening more and more. And I've always associated sleep apnea with men who are on perhaps the heavier side. Is that wrong?
So this is completely wrong because sleep apnea around the perimenopausal age is very, very common and often ignored condition. So something like sleep apnea, as I told you, is when your breathing tube during the night time is compressed, you don't get oxygen in your brain. When you don't get oxygen in the brain, your brain centers are remaining awake during the night and telling you, please get up, I'm not getting oxygen, you need to breathe.
Right.
So how you recognize it? So most of the time your bed partner is going to recognize it for you if you have heavy snoring. It's heavy snoring, not the mild kind of standalone snoring which we are talking about here. The heavy snoring which your partner is noticing is increasing in crescendo manner and then coming down, and your breath is stopping at that point, and suddenly you wake up with a gasp of air going inside your body. That person who's having this problem does not realize it. They're not fully awake to realize that they have had a problem, but their partner is consistently complaining that I'm not able to sleep when he's snoring so loudly, and then they get a stoppage in their breath during the night time. They feel sleepy most of the time during the daytime also, especially when they are conversing, when they are in their meetings. They're just dozing off like this in important meetings as well. They're unable to concentrate. Their hypertension doesn't get controlled with even 3 drugs if they're taking any hypertension medication. Their diabetes is uncontrolled. They develop central obesity. Most of the time they have thick neck, which is responsible for more compressibility of the breathing tube, because they have short neck. They don't have so much of space inside their throat, so that it could compensate for the gravity shifts which happen during the night.
And that waking up with the jhatka is because your brain is signaling there's not enough oxygen?
Exactly.
Wake up?
Yeah, because your oxygen levels have dropped down to dangerously low levels. So that level is dangerous even for your heart, your cardiovascular health. It might give you something called a heart attack, which is myocardial infarction. It might even give you stroke, which is stoppage of the brain blood supply to a region of the supply, so that area becomes dead and suddenly one part of your body is not moving. So these cardiovascular problems are related to sleep apnea, which is increasing at a pandemic level in our country, because now we are on the abundance side, we have so many things available at home to eat, especially also during the night. People who have emotional health problems, they have more cortisol in their body. They crave for these kinds of food, which is mostly junk food, the carbohydrate rich
and
food.
cake.
So again, moderation is the word. So something like that is very detrimental for your health.
But how does one tell, because I have slept very close to people who snore heavily. How does one tell whether that is snoring, an acceptable level, or sleep apnea? Does somebody go and have it tested, or can you test at home, or can you
definitely if these screening questions are positive, they are getting more sleep during the night, they are falling sleepy even while sitting. If they have uncontrolled hypertension, if they have uncontrolled diabetes, and then if they have a lot of fatigue setting in during the day, they're not able to do anything. They say, my muscles don't work, I can't exercise, I can't do it, doctor. So they are somebody, especially in women, because women don't come up with these kind of overt symptoms, which means that they don't fall sleepy during the night. The first symptom which they tell you is, we are very, very fatigued during the day. We don't feel that energy level which used to be there previously. And then we are putting fat around our belly. So something has happened to us. I'm not able to get that sleep. I don't feel refreshed in the morning. I have an early morning headache. That is when a person needs to get tested for sleep apnea. There are 2 or 3 ways of testing for sleep apnea. One of them is polysomnography, which means this is a sleep study which happens in a clinic setting or in a hospital setting, where we study the electroencephalogram, which is the EEG of the brain. We study their oxygen levels during and throughout the night. We study how their ECG works during the night, and then we see these disruptions in the breathing which happen, because we have a probe which goes inside the nose and inside the mouth, which senses if there is a drop in the flow of the air inside your nose. So if there is a flow down which is happening during the night time, that is causing desaturation and followed by an arousal, which means that this disruption led to an arousal in your sleep. Then it is obstructive sleep apnea. So that is something to be deciphered by a qualified sleep specialist. And if somebody is having all these symptoms, they should at once meet a pulmonologist or a sleep specialist who can prescribe them polysomnography, get them tested. And then if we find it out that it is this kind of a problem, they have to take care of it by applying a CPAP machine during the night and exercise, so that they lose that extra amount of fat inside the body and eat right.
So you're seeing this happening quite a lot in India?
Yeah, definitely. It is increasing. And in women, they are protected in their early years with the good hormones which they have, the estrogen and the progesterone in the body. But during the perimenopausal age, when they have this drop in the hormones, when they have these fluctuations happening, that is when this kind of a problem sets in, and then they go into a spiral. So that is somewhere we should be looking at.
And is it always with the weight gain, or it can be somebody who's not overweight also?
That's a very good question, Soha. Yeah, because we have 30% of people who are not obese, they have long necks, still they could be having sleep apnea, because it has a genetic component. If your father, mother, anybody in the family had this kind of a problem, you are carrying those genes, you could be having sleep apnea. It's not always the weight which is responsible for it. There are uncontrolled diabetics wherein the insulin surges happen, and that leads to this kind of a problem. So it's real problem. Yeah.
Sure. Because you said weight gain, I wanted to ask you, when you put on weight when you get pregnant, I mean, like we all do, did that create any kind of obstruction when you were sleeping? Did it lead to any snoring?
I mean, during pregnancy, when I was very big, I did feel uncomfortable to sleep in any direction. And the anxiety about, like, you know, how, like, I don't know, I had a lot of anxiety during that late pregnancy, where I, you know, would feel like if I sleep wrong, it'll do something to the baby. Or
and they tell you not to lie flat on your back.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I remember feeling this always, like, I need more pillows. I need a different, this is not, the bed is not, everything was not right, you know. But I don't think it was something that was too severe. I had a question, which was, like, I'm always a little wary of sleeping pills. But, like, if you really are having trouble to sleep.
I have that question.
Right. Yeah. So because I do take a sleeping pill now and then when I am traveling to the US and back, and I have to quickly adjust myself again. So I take it for like 3-4 days. But I'm very afraid that it becomes addictive, and I'm very afraid to use it regularly, because it is, like, I feel like it's going to stop me from being able to sleep. So that's what I want to know.
See, like, if you're doing it on intermittent basis, like what you said, the shift work or the shift in the structure of the timing zone which you are in, then you're safe. But if it is happening consistently at every point, and people need to consult specialists for that, because the reason I'm telling it, there are different kinds of sleep problems and different kinds of medication which is available to cater to that problem. So there could be problem with insomnia happening in sleep initiation, which means that somebody is not able to fall asleep in the first place. And the second thing is in maintenance of sleep, which means that they fall asleep and then they have problems in the maintenance. So medication for both these conditions are very, very different. So don't self-medicate is the message which should go. You should always consult somebody before you hook on to the medication. But yes, as Kalki said, it's very important that we cater to our sleep. If you have sleep deprivation which is not getting catered to with the common things which we spoke about, you need to see a doctor, and you could be prescribed a medication which can help you.
Well, tell me about, there's also home tests that you can do, right, to measure your sleep. What does that entail?
So home sleep apnea testing, we call it HSAT. So this is something which we do at home, where a technician comes to your home, it sets up the machinery around you, connects those same machines which I spoke about, except the EEG.
I see.
Which means if we are suspecting obstructive sleep apnea in a person, and we are quite sure that this is sleep apnea, we can screen them in a way that this is happening, we have documented it, and now we need to treat it. The only disadvantage with this is the CPAP titration which we do in the in-lab study, where we find out the right amount of pressures which you require. That only happens inside the lab study, which is in a hospital or in a clinic. That doesn't happen at home.
And so can you reverse this? Like I'm saying that is this solution only using the CPAP machine?
So that's see, this is continuous positive airway pressure, which is the breathing machine which gives you pressure, keeps your breathing tube open so that you don't have those kinds of.
But you would be required to take that then?
On a long-term basis most of the time. But if you are able to lose about 20 to 30% of your body weight if you're obese, then it might be reversed. However, there are other factors which are responsible for obstructive sleep apnea. As we spoke, there are genetic factors, insulin resistance,
Right.
many other factors. So most of the times it has to be a lifelong therapy.
Right. Why is snoring so ignored in women? I feel like a lot of people think, and so did I, that it's just a man's problem, and typically more men snore than women. So why is it dismissed among women? A lot of women come to you with snoring.
Yeah, they do. Primarily why it is ignored is because men folk, they don't complain. They sleep so hard and so tight, they don't tell you that, they don't know what is happening around. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that
is something which we all see. Yeah.
What?
That reel I saw, I was telling you guys about that, women apparently when they sleep, a big part of their brain is still active.
Yes.
Whereas men, most of their brain is completely
very calm.
inactive.
Right.
So, we tend to wake up if there's a small sound.
Right.
Or, we're very ready for
Right.
action.
Right.
And
Men sleep.
they don't notice if you're snoring.
Yeah.
But I also think there might be some shame around a woman snoring.
Yeah.
Like I would probably want to, I don't know, maybe not tell people that I snore, that I'm a big snorer.
And men don't have that problem?
Men don't have.
I
that
don't think they.
So women don't come up with their
I-
problem. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
one of the stigma attached to it.
Sure.
That I may be, going to a doctor, telling them I have snoring, I would be judged, things like that. Secondly, their structure of the throat and the mouth is little different. They don't have heavy jaw, they don't have heavy neck. So the amount of loud noise which they produce is lesser as compared to a men. So that is something which we ignore many number of times. And it's just that they don't come up with their health problems initially. They just think of the fatigue as a part of their growing old or aging, but it's not that. So most common symptoms which women get due to sleep problems is fatigue, daytime fatigue. If it sets in, you go for a doctor visit, you tell them you have this problem, and you may need a sleep test.
And when does snoring become a red flag, like you said?
Yeah,
when it's-
it's a very good question again. So when your snoring is suddenly going down in the noise, the amount of noise it is producing, which means that you have had an apnea. Your breath is stopping, it is no more air is coming out of the throat, and then there is no more noise. And that is when there is a gasp. The person, gasps for breath, he opens his eyes, and then the level of oxygen is dangerously low at that point in time. The another red flag is that morning time when they wake up, they tell you we have a terrible headache, we don't feel rested at all, I don't feel like going to work today, I want to sleep again. So during the daytime also, they tell you that I want to sleep, I don't want to go work. And then again they are putting that central obesity, which is the fat around the abdomen, the visceral fat, what we call, is very, very bad.
Right. So what I typically do is, if the person sleeping next to me is snoring, I just turn them over, and that seems to work. Are there any more elegant solutions? Holding their nose?
They sometimes.
Is that what you do?
Yeah, I sometimes just do this for a bit, and then something happens. Some realignment goes on, and then
it
they're
works.
breathing.
So apart from these two, which they don't seem to be the best solutions,
So if it is so much, you have to go and get yourself tested for sleep apnea. As I told, another thing is you have to lose weight. When you lose weight, this apparatus gets far more efficient. It doesn't kind of interfere with your breathing, because more amount of fat in your belly means that your breathing is compromised to some extent. So lose fat, gain your body muscle tone, which again happens with muscle training. So exercise is something which we should be looking at. Keeping a balanced weight, diet of course is very, very important. If you take a diet which is very high in carbohydrate, that produces lots and lots of carbon dioxide during the night, and that leads to a decreased muscle tone. So that is something which we should be looking at.
Okay. I want to just touch on relationships, because I feel that it's important to have intimacy, especially when you're talking about husband and wife or live-in relationships. Snoring can be an issue. Sometimes it doesn't start out that your partner is snoring, but that might develop. And I've seen, at least in my parents' generation, perhaps now even, at some point people start to sleep in different bedrooms.
Yeah.
It's something that I would like to try to avoid. So what would you suggest that one can do, perhaps? I believe there's something called sleep divorce that is happening, and I don't know if this is something at all that touches your life in any way.
Not too much. At least, I mean, Guy is not a heavy snorer.
Yeah.
But except occasionally when he's very, very tired. But so no, it doesn't affect me too much.
So this is very, very common. Sleep divorce happens when one of the partners is snoring to the extent that other's sleep is affected.
Yes.
And it's a real problem because one of the partners is not sleeping at all due to the noise. So when this happens, at least what you can do for your partner is get them tested for sleep apnea, and this can be very well treated with the CPAP machine.
But it might not be sleep apnea, right? It might just be heavy snoring.
So see, heavy snoring happening to the extent which is disturbing a partner's sleep is most likely sleep apnea. So the level of the noise which is produced when you have sleep apnea is quite high, so that it disturbs a partner's sleep. So 90% of the times it has to be sleep apnea. If it is the other way round, if it is standalone snoring which is happening, so what you can do is avoid alcohol just before going to sleep.
That also relaxes structurally. That causes a depression.
It reduces your muscle tone in the body, and that causes a lot of flabbiness inside your body, which leads to this snoring. Sleeping on your sides is going to work wonders, because when you sleep flat, the compression level increases and that noise also increases. So that is something which we can easily do. Sleeping on your belly can also help, because that way your airway remains open as compared to when you sleep on your back. This may not be good for women, because women have poorer skin health when they sleep on their tummy.
Yes, it's true. You know this.
You get puffy eyes when you sleep on your tummy, because the level of circulation which happens when you sleep on your tummy is less. So you compare yourself sleeping on your tummy one night and the other night you're sleeping on your back. There's a marked difference which is seen on your face.
I tried very hard, but I just find myself flat on my face most times.
I
and then
tend
I'm
to
trying
fall asleep
to
in my stomach. I
support the
you can try and sleep like this.
Yeah.
Just as we come towards the end of this, I thought just a couple of questions to highlight some things. Kalki, if I can ask you some small things that you might want to suggest to people watching in terms of what they can do to perhaps sleep better.
I think, like I said, I think that the phone is our biggest enemy right now, in terms of the kind, not just the physical thing that the light creates, but also the mental load that it takes on. So I would just say, put that into your your rhythms. Like, just take that phone time, put it somewhere other than when you're sleeping. That's like the most important. Other than that, like, try to be happy. Try to be like do exercise. Try to find things which give you like a feeling of exhaustion and of course, like, not eating junk. Daytime drinking, not evening drinking. And that's, I don't know.
Like, I try now, somebody told me go for a walk in the morning. That vitamin D is really important, because that helps the creation
sunlight
of melatonin. And that will actually then kick in better and help you to sleep.
Oh, absolutely. When you're in hotel rooms, I feel you don't have much access to the outdoors.
No.
And that's become a problem when you're working a lot and you're in hotel rooms a lot.
And you don't see
the sun.
And they don't have windows.
They don't have windows.
Or they have, like, you can't really go out.
Closed windows.
You can't open the windows.
And actually, something that I forgot to ask you, but it's also relevant here, is the whole culture of working and not sleeping. Have you ever been a part of that? Or, of course, I'm assuming
I feel
working,
our industry has no boundaries.
But that glorification of, I pulled an all-nighter, or that, I don't need, I need only 4 hours of sleep. I feel like that culture does exist.
No, in our film industry.
Yes.
I mean, a normal shift is 12 hours, and it's never been that we finish in 12 hours. There's always a sleep of like up to 14 hours, and that's on a good day. Otherwise, it's 16 hours. And then you think about the travel time, 2 more hours. If you're outside, shooting in a studio outside Bombay, I was doing that. And then it's 18 hours. And then suddenly you're like, I have 6 hours to sleep. So people are working in this environment when they work back to back for one film after another, especially crew members and all. They have it really bad, and it's really like there should be like stricter laws on this, because I remember shooting a film in London, Goldfish, and they were so proper about their timings. Like literally the sound team, we had gone just like we were going about 10 minutes over time into the lunch break, and they just all dropped their equipment and left.
Right.
So you can't. You have to work within the
It's a proper
schedule
regulation,
thing.
Discipline.
And somehow we just have this glorification of like, we need to get the project done. And now because of OTTs and this demand of making something fast because it needs to be 8 episodes, whereas you used to make a feature film which was 2 hours long, now you're making a 12-hour long thing in the same kind of money. It's asking so much, and I don't know, there's a whole system in place that's just messed up.
It's true. So there's certain, of course, systemic changes, structural changes that one can hopefully look forward to once this conversation becomes more mainstream. But doctor, if there's certain things that perhaps someone watching this again could, maybe 3 things tonight that they could do to improve their sleep, what should I do?
See, consistency, exercise, diet. This is very, very important. So something which we should look at is magnesium intake, which is very good amount which is present in seeds. So if you have good amount of seeds, magnesium capsules, So magnesium is known to cause relaxation of your nerves as well as your muscles, which leads to a good quality sleep, which is required for the body. Again, vitamin D, which you spoke about, it is very, very vital for the muscle function. It helps in healing of the muscle. That gives you good amount of sleep. Eating a balanced diet again is very important, as we spoke, and then not having the stimulatory drinks, whatever is there, whether it is caffeine or it is alcohol, late into the evening. Having at least 3 hours of gap between your sleeping and your eating is very, very important. Physical activity is, I would say, like Vidya Balan said, entertainment. I would say exercise. I'm a great fan of yours. I follow you on Insta. I see how much amount of work you do for the exercise and to stay fit. So every woman should stay fit, and this message has to percolate down to each and every woman that the muscle training is important. Because the moment you start muscle training, longevity is going to set in, because the more amount of muscle, the healthy muscle, is going to get you more amount of years, and that too quality years into your life. So that is very, very important, which is ignored in women most of the time. Nobody told us in childhood that you need to exercise even during pregnancy. Nobody ever told us. Nobody told our mothers, our grandmothers. But muscle training is something which we should be looking at to have a holistic lifestyle and a holistic health.
So now there's just time for a quick reality check, just something to make sure that you were paying attention through this episode. I'm going to ask you some questions. It's called Are You Sleeping Right? And this segment is powered by ResMed. So I'm just going to ask you some questions. I think it's unfair to ask you. I've been asked to ask you both, but you're the expert. So, and I think I can answer these as well.
It's like a quiz. It's not a rapid fire. It's a quiz.
But it's like a rapid fire quiz.
Rapid fire is like opinions on things, but this is like testing by Soha.
It's a rapid quiz. It's just a yes or no.
Okay.
And really, if you get anything wrong, then
shocking.
It's
I was
shocking.
sleeping. But if I slept, it means it's a good sign. You guys give me some good melatonin.
It's never a good sign to fall asleep during a podcast for me.
If you are in Japan, it is.
That's true. Okay, if you snore, it just means you're sleeping deeply. True or false?
False.
False, right?
It's false, right?
Yeah, okay, you and me, we're doing the quiz. You can catch up on your sleep over the weekend.
This is a question I didn't get an answer. Is that true?
But what's your answer? I'm going to say no, because I've tried. You can bank sleep, but you can't. No, you can catch up on it. I think yes.
It's partially correct and partially true. If it is in an acute setting, which means some days of sleep lost, then you can catch up on the weekend. But if it is over a longer period of time, then that sleep cannot be catched in a weekend sleep. So you have to be consistent. Right. Consistency is very, very important.
But if, for example, you've just gone off one weekend, then you can catch up on your sleep, perhaps one off. God, I can't even read this. Disorders like sleep apnea impact a woman's life and increase the risk of heart issues.
Yes.
Definitely.
Scrolling through your phone helps you relax before bed?
Nope.
No. If you're tired, it means you didn't sleep enough.
Not necessarily.
But it's also,
most of the time it's true.
Okay.
I'm looking deeply into it.
I feel like I sleep, sometimes I sleep really
it's not
well.
Good quality sleep.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. It could be that the sleep is not good.
Drinking alcohol helps you sleep better.
No.
No. No.
No.
Only if you drink at like noon.
You're going to say alcohol anyway. I don't think any doctor can say drinking at noon is good for you.
They can't say
alcohol
that.
in general is
Not on
bad
the
for you. If you wake up at night, it's always because of stress.
No.
No, not at all.
No.
Sometimes you have a flight to catch.
Yeah.
Only older people get sleep issues.
No.
No.
Complete no.
Okay. And lastly, exercise at night isn't good for your sleep, which I was confused by, but after listening to you, I think the answer is, you're going to complete the sentence.
Well, I would have said it's not good if it's too late.
Yeah. So that exercise is good, but it should not be
too late.
Too late.
And try and win whatever game you're playing. And then you can sleep like a baby. So thank you both for being on this. I just really felt that because sleep is so critical to me and because I'm going through this phase of insomnia, I wanted to try and have more conversations around this, and especially, again, talking about women and sleep, because I truly believe women do a lot more and we need that little extra hour of sleep. So if your wife or your partner is saying, let me sleep in, please let her sleep in, because she needs it. And thank you for making the time and being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. I think what really stands out from this conversation for me is how easily we ignore sleep, even though it impacts everything. It impacts our mood, it impacts our health, it impacts our digestive system, our metabolism, our relationships, how I think we function on a day-to-day basis. And the truth is, it's not just how many hours you sleep, it's the quality of sleep that you get. And things like constant fatigue, what doctor was talking about, snoring, waking up feeling like you have a headache or unrested. These are not things that we should normalize. These are actually signs that your body is asking for more attention. So if there's one takeaway from this episode, it's this: do not dismiss your sleep. Pay attention to it, understand it, and take it seriously. I want to thank Kalki for sharing her experiences so honestly, like she always does, and also Doctor for just simplifying, I think, some of the more complex things about sleep that affect us all. And thank you, of course, to everyone watching All About Her. Until next time, please stay informed, stay healthy, and we will see you soon.